Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The attack on TVP journalist Magdalena Ogórek by members of the Committee for the Defence of Democracy and Citizens of Poland movements has become a part of a political game. Yesterday, the President of the European Council, Donald Tusk, tried to use the event to his advantage, while Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki called for less tension among people in Poland.
Questions and doubts are arising since the attack on Magdalena Ogórek. Yesterday, Polish state broadcaster TVP published profiles of the people who protested in front of the headquarters and allegedly attacked the presenter. According to Polish Ombudsman Adam Bodnar, this was unlawful. Members of the Civic Platform Party TVP is setting the dogs on people picketing in front of their headquarters. How did they have the access to these profiles if not from the police? That's lawlessness. TVP management explains that information about the picketeers and the profiles were obtained from the internet, where it is publicly available. Meanwhile, Kukiz 15 movement member Piotr Apel stated that these profiles should not have been made public, as it equates to promoting those individuals. Promoting those people, and that's what you do when you publish their image, is wrong. We should eliminate all such instances. It's a similar situation to when the media published and promoted Janusz Palikot. In typical fashion, Donald Tusk voiced his disapproval of the current Law and Justice government. In the view of most commentators, given his political position, the President of the European Council should have abstained from commenting. Meanwhile, Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki appealed to de-escalate the political tension and strive for dialogue and compromise. He also stated that TVP isn't to blame in the most recent incident. TVP is not responsible for this shameful attack on Magdalena Ogórek. The perpetrators are.
Officers of the Polish Central Anti-Corruption Bureau arrested 4 people today as part of an investigation into corruption at KGHM Polska Miedz, one of the biggest state-owned companies producing copper and silver.
Thanks to the Rzeszów division of the Central Anti-Corruption Bureau, 4 people were detained. 2 of them were high-ranked employees of the KGHM company. The 2 other suspects are businessmen from Lower Silesia. The investigation revolves around the suspects receiving and handing out bribes. Our officers discovered that the 2 KGHM employees had been systematically taking bribes in exchange for favoring the 2 businessmen's companies in buying mining equipment. How much the bribes were differed depending on the contracts offered. However, our officers learned that some of them could amount to 65,000 zlotys and the value of all the purchased equipment to 1.5 million zlotys. The detained will now be moved to the Katowice prosecutor's office, where they will hear charges.
Today, the Polish government announced its latest programme to prevent school children from going hungry. 2.745 billion zloty, or around $730 million, will be spent between 2019 and 2023 to upgrade school canteens across the country.
It's difficult to learn anything with an empty stomach. We want to replace actual hunger with a hunger for knowledge. We want every child to have a hot meal a day, because with a healthy body comes a healthy mind. We want to promote those municipalities which run canteens. These municipalities can get a 5% bump in the sum they are given to subsidize meal programs. Moreover, municipalities which run operations delivering meals to the elderly, sick and disabled may also receive 5% more to cover their costs.
The lengthy tour of debates with mayors announced by French President Macron in response to the 3-month-long campaign of massive yellow vest or gilets jaunes street protests continued today in the poor suburbs of Paris. The residents of the banlieue, or no-go zones, as they are often known as, seem to be doubtful as to whether Macron's visit will change their lives for the better.
The French suburbs, the banlieues, are primarily populated by immigrants from the Middle East and Africa. These areas are severely segregated and inhabitants suffer from a high degree of poverty, unemployment and crime. Today's debate between Macron and local mayors took place in the Parisian banlieue of Évry-Courcouronnes and focused on the difficulties faced by people living in banlieues. Many of the locals seemed unimpressed with the president's sudden interest in their living conditions. Who is suffering? The people in the suburbs, not the mayors. It's true that the mayors have been present on site for years. They're aware of the problem, but nobody has ever done anything. And now that the Yellow Vests have started an outburst, everybody wants to be here, to be on the forefront. So I don't get it. During the debate, Macron argued that a new type of social mix is needed in the banlieues. The difficulties are concentrated in the suburbs: economic, social, educational difficulties with the challenges that you have raised. We've already addressed these questions several times and we'll get back to them, and so I won't talk about them here. The key is to know if these difficulties are unavoidable in the suburbs or if we should consider constructing a new type of social mix in these suburbs. And so, for the state and local institutions, we have to build a new way of collectively managing the challenges which are experienced by our entire nation, and not just by this or that place. Meanwhile, the Gilets jaunes protested together with trade unions for the first time. All by themselves, the Yellow Vests will not suffice. Were all of France go to Paris for weekly Yellow Vest protest, then that would be something. But of course, if our union representatives came for this demonstration today, it's also to support the Yellow Vests. We all have demands. The next big round of Gilets jaunes demonstrations is planned for Saturday.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business. Stay tuned after that for Poland Daily Culture, Travel and the History.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. A cold night across the country with temperatures ranging between -6 degrees in Wrocław to 1 degree in Koszalin. Fog is expected around Rzeszów. Now over to tomorrow. Some overcast weather along the Baltic coast, but otherwise a very sunny day. The temperatures will range from 1 degree to 4 degrees in Kraków. Snow will appear on the north and in central Poland. We are expected high pressure. Let's see the forecast for the next 3 days. Thursday will be a sunny day in central and southeastern Poland, a maximum 5 degrees in the northwest and a minimum 1 degree in the northeast. On Friday, snow is expected in northern eastern Poland, while southern Poland will stay sunny. And on Saturday, overcast weather across the country with a maximum 9 degrees in the northwest and a minimum 3 degrees in the northeast. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
You're watching Poland Daily Business Edition. The energy crisis is looming over Poland. We may lack the electric power for our industry and for the citizens. Therefore, there are lots of thoughts what to do next. One of the options is to start building the atomic power plant. This is ongoing discussion. It's almost 40 years, and like every government discussed this issue, and still we don't even have a location. Our guest tonight, Professor Grzegorz Karwasz of Nicolaus Copernicus University, an expert of International Agency of Atomic Energy. Sir, so let us start. How many of energy units we will lack in the next 10 years?
Well, the recent study by the Polish Ministry of Energy says that we will lack some 50% of energy if nothing happens within 20 years. So in 10 years, it will be going slowly down, our capacity to fulfill the demand for the electric power. And in 20 years, it will be really a serious crisis.
Assuming that Polish economy will develop and we will be on the par with, say, South Korea?
Well, we are exactly below the level of South Korea, because South Korea per capita has something like twice as much as Poland. But taking into account the present growth of Poland and the present amount of citizens, we will lack some 40–50% of electric power if we do not undertake any action.
Okay, and the atomic power plant is the solution.
Well, not only in the case of Poland would be a solution, because Polish production of energy is based on coal, and brown coal essentially, and it will not last forever. It will finish soon. So we must replace brown coal and black coal. And we have not enough wind, we have not enough photovoltaic power, so we must substitute coal with something. The solution other countries adopt is nuclear energy.
It is nuclear energy, but it is still very expensive option. It is a burden that takes years. We have examples from Finland, we have examples from Great Britain, the countries that normally are very well organized, and yet the time of this investment is really killing the whole financial procedure.
Well, the time of the investment is long. So this is one of the points that decisions should be taken quickly, because building time is at least 10 years. About costs. Cost of production of energy in any case is high. You said Great Britain. Great Britain is building wind stations on the sea. This is the most expensive way of getting energy. So in any case, the cost is high. In the case of nuclear power, one has to be prepared with something like 4 billion euro to get 1 gigawatt of energy, which is a reasonable amount of energy we need.
Speaking of that, do we have any new technologies? Because there are rumors about some breakthrough technology that will deliver nuclear power quickly and cheaply.
Well, a lot of research is going on, and a lot of solutions could be considered, but these solutions are not ready. I'm an expert at International Atomic Energy Agency working for thermonuclear power, working on a station which will be still a research station in Cadarache in France, which will be ready in some 10 years. The cost of this experimental power station is 13 billion euro just for the beginning. So, well, there is a lot of rumor, there is a lot of discussion, there are different possibilities, but nothing is ready.
Yes, so we are looking at the commercially available nuclear power plants, and there is a French option, the American option, Chinese option, and Korean option. Am I missing something?
Yes. No, well, one could get also Brazilian option. Also, Brasilia constructs by their own. They construct nuclear power stations, but who is the most developed? I would say France, which uses majority of some 80% of electric power comes in France from nuclear power. Americans who developed it for first, and they are still very active in this field. They should also invest in this field. Korea, who builds 4 nuclear power plants in Arab Emirates, so there is a lot of different options. Obviously, we are in Europe, and European options should be the closest.
That means the French...
Well, I'm not saying French, I'm saying European option. Well, this decision is not to scientists. This decision is up to politicians, up to government. Well, Koreans are at the moment the most progressing country. I'm also an expert in Korea, working for Korean research in the field of thermonuclear power, atomic processes in thermonuclear power. So I know that they are very well prepared, very well organized, with high industrial capacities. Obviously, this is not up to scientists to decide which option should be used.
But looking at the options, we see the current nuclear power. Is this a design that's 40, 50 years old?
No. Well, this is a constant progress in this field. One can choose also Canadian type of reactor, which does not need enriched uranium, which is an option, safe option, because enriched uranium could be used for nuclear weapons. So one can use this. One can use Korean option with a high pressure water cooling. There's a number of options one could choose. There is not the options 40 years ago. Well, in Poland, 40 years ago, there was an option to build a nuclear power plant, one of them, with the technology from a country which does not exist anymore. So we would have a technology from a country, well, not existing, just one power plant outside an industrial reality. So the option from 40 years ago, luckily, is over.
You mentioned that the brown coal that is powering currently Poland is going away. We will not have it in 10 or 20 years. Will we have uranium?
No, we don't have uranium. Uranium is to be bought in Australia or in Kazakhstan, in any part of the world.
Will there be enough uranium for nuclear power plants?
Yes, there will be still enough uranium for next 50 years, I would say, for next 50 years. The thermonuclear power plant we are building in Kadarash will be ready just in 50 years, commercially ready just in 50 years. But we will need electric power in Poland in 10 years.
There is also an issue of safety of the nuclear power.
Well, so there's the question about safety is about everything. As an example, I give the biggest disaster which happened in Italy recently. It was in Viareggio with a train bringing liquid gas, and it exploded on the station. So a number of houses was destroyed, and some 50 persons were killed. So the question about the safety is everywhere. Nuclear power plants are projected to be safe.
So, sir, thank you very much for this insight to the nuclear energy. Professor Grzegorz Karwasz of Nicolae Copernicus University and International Atomic Energy Agency was our guest.
Thank you.
I'm Aleksandra Zarzycka and welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. Some overcast weather along the Baltic coast, but otherwise a very sunny day. The temperatures will range from 1 to 4 degrees in Kraków. Snow will appear on the north and in central Poland. We are expecting high pressure. And now let's see tomorrow's forecast for our continent. Snow with rain will dominate in Oslo with -6 degrees. Higher temperatures in Central Europe, there we will see about 3 and 6 degrees. In Central Eastern Europe, we will also see a lot of snow. There, the temperatures will range from -2 degrees in Moscow to 3 in Kiev. Sunny weather in Iberian Peninsula and in Rome with about 15-16 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
In the beginning, there was only a screen that could provide her window into the world. However, it planted the seed for a passion to explore. It grew in Eva Chojnowska Lesiak until her desire became so strong that she could no longer stay put. Eva lived and travelled through China, to which she often returns. But she feels best in equatorial Africa, among simple people and wildlife. Between the Batwa pygmies in Uganda, the Maasai in Kenya, the Bedouins in the Sudanese desert, the dramatically dangerous White Nile rafting, chimpanzees on Negamba Island in Uganda, or mountain gorillas in Wiraguna Park in Congo. She has been to North Korea as part of her work, which she has visited more than once. She's not afraid of challenges and breaking her limits of endurance, which she proved during Polsat TV program island of survival.
Hello, welcome again to Poland Daily Culture. Today, our guest will be Chojnowska, who is a traveler as well as a blogger and a tour guide. Hello, Eva, welcome.
Hello.
Thank you for coming. So how would you describe yourself in a few words?
It's so difficult to describe because I try to do different things and different stuff, and I don't want to put myself into only one box. So it's instead of being a lady walking with the high heels, I like also doing some men adventures, which are not really connected with a lady. So it's not easy to describe myself in few words. They are a bit complicated.
Because your blog name is Szpilki w plecaku, which means high heels in a backpack, does this describe you or the things you do?
There is one story. I mean, there are some roots of my blogging. Everything starts when I was, it was 10 years ago when I was a model and I started working abroad, and first trip, like long distance trip, was to China. And I remember I took 2 enters visa. And when I finished my contract, I promised myself, no, I'm not going to lose this visa. I want to come back and take this opportunity and travel again. But step by step, I met good people in a good time, which they gave me a good opportunity to travel. But I never forget I'm a lady and I like girly stuff. Even I do not easy trips like Africa and Asia. That's why there's a connection, high heels in a backpack.
I think it's a very good name. And because you usually travel to different continents, you're not based in Europe, you go to Africa, as you said, to Asia. Mm-hmm. Is it a challenging task to plan all those trips?
A little bit, yes, because mainly I travel due to my work. I'm a tour guide, and it's so difficult for myself to plan for long distance my own private trips. So like my schedule, it's usually not really planned, but it's planned. It means I know that during Polish autumn, like August, September, October till December, I have full-time work, and I can forget about my own trips. But at the beginning of the year, my schedule is more free, and I can do something those things I really like myself.
And what was your best trip, or the one that you can remember the most?
There are a few, but really I remember Kenyan trip when I was staying with the Maasai tribe. I spent with them overnight, since early morning till the next day. We were cooking together, we had a fire together. I really wanted to make it as a plain, traditional Maasai life. They were laughing at me because they said, oh, you have showers somewhere around, and there are some lodges around, maybe you want to go to have a shower there. I said, no, I have my portable shower, so if you want, you can give me some area and I will do shower there. Oh, there are some restaurants around, and our food is very different to yours. Yes, I know, I said, but I bought a goat, and I want to make a dinner with you, like you do. And also, I had overnight in their house, in a very simple house, where cows were in the separate room, and they woke me up in the morning because
the cows?
People, they woke me up, cows as well, because they were giving a sound.
Yes.
But I wanted to milk cows, and it was also the first experience for me like this.
Oh. Is it hard to milk a cow?
Not really, but I remember when I was a child, my grandma had some cows, and they said, never come to this on the back of the cow. But this time I had to not even be on the back. I had to touch and do my work, which was quite challenging for me.
high heels in a backpack. Where did this name come from? Many years of her life have been more or less split between planes on their way to interesting places around the globe, hence the backpack, and work on sets as a model, where her beloved high heel shoes cannot be avoided. So it is a combination of what she does every day and what gives her great pleasure.
And if you could tell me something about this beautiful piece of jewelry that you're wearing.
This is kind of a Maasai necklace, but there are few kinds of Maasai. There are some in Tanzania, in Samburu, and in Masai Mara. Those are more like Maasai mixed with Samburu and also mixed a little bit with northern tribes. Mm-hmm. And the ladies wears them when they are quite rich.
I understand it's handmade.
It's handmade. Also the story about that was crazy because one man on the beach asked me, please buy something from me. I said, you have everything similar to others, but if you want me to buy something, and then I opened the guidebook, please make something like this. Mm-hmm. Oh. And he prepared that for me, which is really unusual, even for Maasai, because when I visit Kenya, I always wear there and it catches attention.
And you're a blogger. How did you gain such a rich audience?
I don't think it's a rich audience. I think it's a beginning only.
But you're doing very well.
I think the main issue is to be real, to have passion, because if you do it only for business, you will do nothing. If you have charisma and you like people, you are open to other people, it can be much easier. I think being regular, it's also very important. And I think also blogging can be, or being a blogger in the future can be another source of audience, but real audience for business.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and also journalism is kind of turning into blogging nowadays. Yeah. So how do you see the future of blogging in Poland?
I think it's getting more professionalized. And the people are very, very responsible of those things they write. And everybody who reads blogs, or if you are a blogger or even not, you're a common person, they know that people will trust you. And if you do a lie, they will find out and you will lose a respect which you worked for a long time. Mm-hmm. And I think the professionalizing, it's the main next step for the blogging. As you said, it's another level of journalism and responsibility of everything you create, even is it picture or is it an article, people will know and they will trust you. And this is very, you have to be responsible.
And organized.
Yes.
Do you sometimes feel like you want to change your profession, or if...
No.
Never.
No. I tried some work in the office, but it's definitely not my way.
Yes.
Not my way. I like being flexible. I like create everything I want. Of course, in my opinion, having work without schedule, like from 8 till 6, it's much difficult because you have to create your schedule yourself. You are, this is kind of your business and you have to take care of your business. So it demands from you much more work and concentrating on the things you do, if you want to be good, of course. Mm.
And what do you think was or is the biggest challenge in what you do?
Whoa, the biggest challenge? I have only one problem why the day it takes only 24 hours. This is the only problem, because sometimes when I start write something and it's so late, I know I have to go to sleep, but I wish to have a longer day and to feel all my my ideas.
Thank you for joining us on Poland Daily Culture, and don't forget to watch us tomorrow. Goodbye.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Poland Daily History. Today we are at the Warsaw Citadel, a structure built by the Russians in the 1830s and later on used as a prison for political dissidents and fighters of the January uprising of 1863 to 1864. Some of the prisoners held here would later on become prominent figures in Polish politics, while others were executed or sent to Siberia after imprisonment. Today, we will talk to some of the experts about the specifics of the Citadel, the January Uprising, and more history about the era. It is commonly known that during the Second World War, there's an underground state operating in Poland. But little known is the fact that the same thing also occurred during the January Uprising. I was hoping you can tell me a little bit more about the underground state during the uprising.
Powstanie styczniowe było pierwszym tak ogromnym czynem zbrojnym polskim na szeroką skalę, w którym zaistniało.
The January Uprising was the first large-scale uprising in which the tactic of creating an underground state was used. However, the term underground state should only be used for the similar state structure the Poles set up during the Second World War. The Poles who fought in the January Uprising called it the secret Polish state. It consisted of, for example, a government, ministries, departments, a court system and prosecution offices. You could say it was a state within the state. It collected taxes from people and issued documents so that people could prove that they had paid their fair share. The secret Polish state also had the capacity to collect taxes with force if necessary, partly with the use of the so-called beating gendarmes or hangman gendarmes.
Powiesić sołtysa, pokazać ciało tego sołtysa na gałęzi.
They would arrive sooner or later in every village that decided not to pay its taxes, hang the local mayor, show his dangling body to the inhabitants and tell people, we will be back within a week, make sure to pay up the national tax. And then normally such a village wouldn't hesitate to pay that tax. But naturally the war effort couldn't be solely financed by taxes. Money is the crucial component of warfare, as Julius Caesar had said back in antiquity.
Złotych rubli. W tym, co ciekawe, 100 000 zostało od razu przeznaczone na rzecz organizatorów tej akcji.
So the secret Polish state also desperately needed other sources of income. One of the most spectacular actions was the Battle of Żyżyn, in which the Poles managed to secure 350,000 golden rubles.
Przede wszystkim gotówki. I Aleksander Waszkowski, powstańczy naczelnik Warszawy.
What's interesting is that 100,000 of them were immediately earmarked for the organizers of the heist. The organizers were Polish Jews who told the Polish fighters about the military convoy which was going to transport the money, and by doing so they helped the Polish war effort a lot.
Za ich niejako wiedzą wynoszono workami pieniądze i ładowano je do wozów.
But still the Poles didn't have sufficient funds. Hard cash was needed in enormous amounts, and Aleksander Waszkowski, the commander of the January Uprising in Warsaw, came up with a plan in which he could use the good contacts he had within the Polish Central Bank in order to steal a large portion of its assets. This became known as the June Action, as it was carried out between June 3rd and June 5th in the year 1863. It was done openly before the eyes of the unsuspecting Russians.
Mogli wykorzystać tylko albo aż 525 000 rubli. To i tak była ogromna kwota.
The money was carried out in large bags and loaded onto a horse-drawn carriage under the lie that the money had to be moved to a safer place because of the uprising. The Russians bought the story and thought that it had been decided by the Tsarist administration. In this way, the Poles managed to secure 3.5 million golden rubles. It was a truly enormous sum. The Poles were very happy with their success, even though only 15% of the figure was in hard cash, while the rest was in loan notes that were immediately made invalid by the Tsar, who announced that they had been stolen.
Należało uśmierzanie ewentualnych niesnasek, które mogłyby...
As a result, the Poles could only use 525,000 rubles. It was still a giant sum that allowed the Poles to form and equip a couple of large military units, so it's worth remembering about this action.
Miasta tutaj ze wzgórza żoliborskiego.
It should also be added that the June action made Aleksander Waszkowski very respected by Polish insurgents and civilians alike.
Państwa polskiego. Stąd wychodziły wszystkie rozkazy. Ostatni przywódca powstania styczniowego Romuald Traugott.
Naturally, most people didn't know his real name, but they were aware that there is a very brave and clever Pole out there somewhere who had managed to trick the Russian soldiers and Russian bunkers.
Przez cały ten okres Waszkowski pełnił funkcję naczelnika Warszawy.
Waszkowski performed the function of a commander of Warsaw throughout the uprising. It was a position which placed a lot of responsibilities on his shoulders. One of his duties was to make sure that there were no incidents which could spiral out of control and cause mass demonstrations against the Russians.
Z gromu odpowiedzialności, która na nim ciąży, a także niestety z tego, iż pętla się zaciska.
The reason for this was the citadel was located here, meaning that Poles had to live in fear of the citadel using its artillery to flatten the city.
I również tak jak dyktator powstania zostaje aresztowany, osadzony w 10. pawilonie warszawskiej Cytadeli, osądzony...
It was Waszkowski's duty to make sure that the Russians weren't given a reason to this, so he had to tone down the emotions and the dangerous revolutionary fervor of the masses.
Powieszony w egzekucji, w przeciwieństwie do egzekucji Traugutta, niepublicznej.
The secret state was a new form of resistance that hadn't been used against the partitioning powers earlier. It was mainly used to avoid reprisals against the family and friends of the people who had decided to take up arms against the oppressive Russian regime. Historian Dr. Krzysztof Jabłonka will delve deeper into the methods used by the secret state and the motivations that drove the people who created it. So we were talking earlier about the underground state during the World War II, and I was given the information that similar event also happened during the January uprising. Can you give us more specific details about said operation?
Zdumiewającą rzeczą jest, że prawie wszystkie wybitne postacie biorące udział w powstaniu i kierujące powstaniem mają pseudonimy.
What was extraordinary was the fact that all insurgents had code names. It was an important part of the Polish secret underground state. It was done so the families of the Polish soldiers wouldn't be endangered by their fight for independence.
Sam walczący wiedział, że naraża się, ale jemu mogli żonę, dzieci, dalszych krewnych wywieźć na Syberię.
The freedom fighters knew that what they were doing was dangerous, but their mothers, fathers, children, etc. could have been forced by the Russians to move to Siberia, to live and die far away from their homeland. The noblemen used their crests. In example, Sierakowski had the Dołęga crest, and that was his code name. Poles also chose names of famous Polish heroes for their pseudonyms, like Borelowski, Lelewel, Hauke Bosak, Czarnecki or Traugott. I could go on and on. If someone had a code name, it meant that he was somehow active in the Polish underground state. This phenomenon was unique on a European scale.
Próbowali stworzyć podziemne państwo.
It was an unknown concept for Europe at that time, for members of an underground state to have code names. The Irish came close, but they haven't exactly succeeded at that.
Będzie powstanie dublińskie w Wielkanoc 1916 roku. Myśmy to przećwiczyli w
The Irish diaspora in the United States sent weapons and money to Ireland, but they couldn't organize a working codename system until the beginning of the 20th century, prior to the First World War.
A jeśli by nadeszła trzecia, to myśmy to już mieli w II wojnę światową.
Thanks to that, the Irish could rise up to the British in the so-called Dublin Uprising.
Państwo, które powstaje, obejmuje Litwę jako odrębne państwo z odrębnym rządem.
Meanwhile, Poles used the codename system already in 1863.
Na samym froncie nam zaprezentowany. Wreszcie
Someone once said that Poles had their First World War in the January Uprising. Their second was the actual First World War, and the Second World War was like a third one for Poles. In a way, we were ahead of our times.
Antoniewicz, który gromadzi pierwszych patriotów.
What's worth mentioning is the fact that the Polish underground state spread to Lithuania as well. They had their own secret government led by Jakub Giedroyć. We can see him right over there.
4 narodom Rzeczpospolitej. Przypomnijmy, obok Polski.
There was also the secret organization of Belarusians led by Kastuś Kalinowski and Ukrainians under the leadership of Edmund Różycki and Kołyszko.
Komponent Wielkiego Księstwa Litewskiego i Ukraina jako część korony.
The uprising fell, but the freedom fighters remained. One could say that the January uprising kept 4 nations alive. Let me remind you, apart from Poland itself, there was also the great Lithuanian Duchy and its component, Belarus, and Ukraine, which was part of the Polish-Russian kingdom. The 4 nations are reborn in a way through the uprising. Even peasants and farmers fought in Lithuania, Belarus and Ukraine.
Stają Ukraińcy Podola i wschodniego Wołynia. Ta tradycja
The freedom-fighting tradition allowed the Republic of Poland to survive, and from this the 4 nations reappeared. But through this tradition, all 4 nations, 2 commonwealths, can be traced back to one, the Kingdom of Poland.
Jedną Rzeczą Pospolitą. Dwakroć obojga narodów.
The January uprising was one of the most pivotal moments in the era when Poland was partitioned. The Poles would later on spend decades debating whether or not they had taken the correct path of resistance. During the interwar era, the veterans were treated as heroes, and they would later on serve as an inspiration for the soldiers fighting in the 1944 Warsaw Uprising. That's it for today. I'll see you next time on Poland Daily History.
Poland Daily Travel. We're here in the forest, and I'm not lost because I know exactly where I am. Hello, and welcome to Poland Daily Travel, where we're taking a snowy trip to the forest. Not a lot of people know that Poland's forests occupy 29% of the country. The vast majority are state or national. We'll be visiting the forest north of Warsaw at Jabłona and Mazowiecki province. This rich tract of woodland lies east of the Wisła, or the Vistula River, and forms a vital part of the green belt around Warsaw, which includes Campinos National Park, a UNESCO-listed biosphere. On our tour, we will be guided by a forest ranger who will give us the lay of the land in one of the forests that form the lungs of the capital city. So stick with us as Poland Daily Travel goes green in the Jabłona forest. Hi, it's Poland Daily. I'm Will, and I'm with my friend Przemysław, and we're in the forest near Warsaw. As you can probably tell, it's a beautiful wood, and it's a beautiful snowy day. For those of you who understand snow, you know exactly what I mean. For those of you who live in places where there is no snow, look at this, it's magical. And I have exactly the right guy to talk to us about forests, not only in the Warsaw and Mazowiecki region, but around the country of Poland. And they have some of the great forests in Europe, in Poland, which we're going to talk more about as we continue. But I'm very happy to see you, Przemysław. Przemysław is a park ranger. In other words, he is responsible for guarding the forest, for making sure that it's taken care of, that visitors enjoy themselves, and that people do not come into the forest and take things they shouldn't take.
Yeah.
We're on a nature trail, by the way. This is an educational trail, so it's a good place for us to start.
Yes, I'm going to present you something.
Okay. So, and what do we have here? These are flowers, right?
Not only flowers, in this board we can see some examples of protected by law plants, live organisms. This is herbs.
These are herbs.
Herbs. This example is lily of the valley.
Lily of the
valley.
Okay.
Very popular here.
You mean it grows a lot here? It grows a lot in the forest?
Yes.
But people like it also?
Because it has very pleasant fragrance.
Ah, so what do people do? They take it to...
blooming...
they dry the flowers and use them at home or something?
No. Fresh flower. The people...
As fresh flowers?
As a fresh flower.
Yeah. But we can't pick these because they're protected,
We
right?
shouldn't.
All of these flowers are protected, right?
Are protected by law.
Rośliny
Chronione. Protected plants.
It sounds like
Chronione. Lily of the valley, in Polish names, has a word May. In its Polish names is present the word May.
Ah,
May.
I see. So it says, I see, it says Convalia Majova, and Majova means...
But I prefer English name because it's very beautiful.
Lily of the Valley is beautiful.
It's a beautiful name.
Okay, what's the next thing?
It's an example of bush.
Okay.
It's not a herb, it's a bush. Protected bush.
It's a bush, and it's called a Wawrzynek.
I don't know its English name.
Wilczełko.
It's an example of orchid.
The one in the middle here. That's an orchid. Okay.
It's an orchid. Orchids grows in Poland are very rarely, but we have some species of orchids.
We don't see orchids very much in Poland. It's unusual. Okay.
Here we can see the example of protected species of moss. And here fern.
What is this? Moss?
Moss.
Moss, yes?
It's moss.
So it grows.
Example of moss.
It only grows on the south side?
No, it's in very wet areas.
But
in the swamps.
In the swamps, in very wet areas. Okay. Very interesting. What about the stuff down here?
It's a fern. It's a fern protected by law, and the ultimate two examples are fungi.
Those are fungi. Fascinating. Okay, and this is more lily of the valley. Right?
More lily of the valley.
Right. Excellent. Hey, we're talking about...
Although its fungi is protected, it's edible.
You can eat this. Do you eat them?
We can eat, but it's protected.
Do you eat them?
No.
Okay, all right.
It's protected
You're a
by
forest
law.
ranger. You're supposed to protect it. You can eat it, but don't eat it. Okay.
Collecting is prohibited by law.
Yeah. Okay. It's prohibited by law.
But
and he knows because it's his job to tell us what's protected and what isn't. And we just learned about a few species. Stay with us. Poland Daily. We're in the forest. And we're going further. We just talked about protected species in this forest and throughout Poland. Be right back with Przemysław, the forest ranger. Stay with us. Okay, so what do we have here? Mushrooms. Okay, mushrooms. Polish national dish.
Yes,
it's very specific.
The mushroom play a very important role in our kitchen. Although they haven't very grand value as a nutrition, they are very tasty. This board presents...
So they taste good, but they're not necessarily that good for you. I see. Okay.
There aren't, majority of them aren't harmful for us. But we have to distinguish well the species, which are edible or unedible. Here are presented some examples of edible and very tasty mushrooms, presented in Polish.
So we can eat these.
Very popular. Yeah. We can eat them. Yeah. They are very tasty. And here, unedible.
So up here, these are the ones that are okay to taste, right? To cook with. But if you have these, they're no good.
Yeah.
Okay.
But really mortal is only one of them.
Only one of them can kill you. Which, that one?
A medium mushroom of it is enough to kill 3 adult people.
Can kill... This mushroom?
This mushroom.
Can kill 3 adults?
3.
So it can kill the whole camera and sound crew?
One medium mushroom.
I like them. We don't feed them now because we want to keep them. Yeah. They're helping us.
The rest of them are harmful
Okay.
but really doesn't kill.
They won't kill.
But really don't kill.
What do they do to you? They don't kill you.
This isn't poisonous,
Right.
but it's unedible because it's very bitter.
Right. Okay. It's very bitter. Yeah?
It's very bitter.
This is a very odd-looking mushroom. I mean, I think we should, keep that away from the, What about this one?
Our population, our citizens, used to eat it, but it's really poisonous. But it's,
This is very poisonous.
Yeah.
It's called
it's
the Croviac
conveniente.
Viniente?
It's really poisonous.
Okay.
And can kill you as later.
Really? So
Yeah.
it builds up in your organism?
Builds up in the organism, the level of the poison.
Which of these is the tastiest of the top?
The tastiest of
these
this,
top mushrooms.
in my opinion, is this or this.
Uh-huh.
It's this is very popular in local forests.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think it is that Polish people like mushrooms so much? I mean, it's
I don't know.
A
I think it's
fetish or something. Yeah?
I think it's a tradition. Our predecessors have to use have to use the plant, the food, which they could collect.
Which is available freely.
Available.
And mushrooms happen to grow in Poland a lot. It's
The
just
mushrooms
favorable.
were available. Available.
They're readily available.
Ready.
Yeah. You see people on the street, on the sides of the roads, selling them during the spring, the summer.
But it's more pleasant to collect them personally.
Do you sometimes collect these in the forest here?
Sometimes.
Yeah?
Sometimes.
Which ones do you collect?
Which one here? Is the
That's
most
the
popular.
one you really look for, yeah, that's the best one. Yeah. And do you find a lot of them here?
My wife loves to collect mushrooms.
Yeah, and she likes to collect them, so...
More than I.
Even more than you do.
Even more
yeah.
than
Well, you're
I.
in the forest all day, so when you go home, the last
I
thing
have-
we do is go
I-
back to the
but
forest.
I have no... usually I have no time for collecting mushrooms.
No, on your day off, your wife says to you, I got a good idea. Let's go to the forest. And you say, no, I don't think so. I think I'm going to stay
It's my
home.
place of work.
Yeah, it's my place of work. Okay, well, that's mushrooms. Let's go on and see what else we've got. Okay, come on.